Well, I'm Mike Dawson, and I am so glad you joined us today. Welcome to 4 behind the scenes secrets to great couples communication. And my wife, Susan, and I have been working with and teaching couples how to have great relationships for over a couple of decades now. And we've been married for almost 39 years. So I'd love to have your comments. So please leave me your comments in the chat. And maybe we could just start that with you maybe telling us how long you've been together or how long you've been married with your partner. And then I just want to tell you that you'll hear me use the words partner, spouse, couple, or marriage pretty interchangeably. So if you're not married, that is just fine. We are talking to all people in relationships together.
32, isn't it? Got married in 1990.
Right,
So in this webinar, I'm going to show you how you can drastically improve your connection with your partner. And by the end of our time together, you're going to learn key skills, attitudes, and tools to change your closeness and how you manage conflict. And yes, we do that by how we communicate with one another. Now, in one 30-minute webinar, there's no way to show you how to completely change your entire relationship. That will take a little bit longer, of course, but you will feel more confident and feel better about your future communication and a whole lot more. So I want to encourage you to stay with us until the end because I want to share a special skill and an attitude that every couple must have and use to understand their partner better, and that will change the way you think about them and talk with them. And that's called the movie theater attitude. You sure don't want to miss at the end, so stay with us for that. And then at the end, we'll also take some questions from the chat. And everyone seems to have questions about their relationship and their communication. And so we'll do that at the end. So I want to encourage you to turn off everything that might distract you. I want to set you up for the best learning experience possible. So let's minimize and eliminate any distractions. Let's turn off the phones, turn down the kids, shut the door and stay focused. Give this time to yourself as a gift to learn some new and great tools so you can transform your couple experience in the days to come. Grab a pad and a pen and let's go. And just one more time, you might want to mute yourself. Every once in a while, we do hear some people coming through, and on my end, I'm not able to do that. So we're going to move right along here. Okay, so before we actually get started on our 4 secrets for great communication, I'd really like to start you off with an awesome concept that has a tendency to trip couples up often in their communication. Now, if you've already signed up at mikeandsusandawson.com, you may have received this document already. And if you haven't, you can always go and sign up anytime for that. There are 2 great skills every couple needs to know about, and that's work talk and heart talk. So work talk is very task focused. It's about facts and opinions. It's very solution oriented. And it's about having or feeling a sense of accomplishment. This is a very simple kind of talk that lots of couples do very naturally when you're talking about fixing something at the house or what time the kids are going to practice or something like that. But the other key communication skill every couple needs is heart talk. And heart talk is just that. It's heart focused. It's about feelings and longings. It's about caring and understanding your partner. It's about that connection and really bonding with one another. And it's very important when you're having conversations to know what kind of conversation you need to be having. Is it work talk or is it heart talk? Because one is about fixing it and one is about feeling it. And a good thing to be able to ask is, do you want me to fix it or to feel it? Many conversations can sound like work or task type of talk, but it may really be heart talk. So maybe I can give you an example that maybe you can relate to. I've had several couples that have difficulty during Thanksgiving and Christmas regarding where, what in laws, and what family members they're going to go to. And when planning and traveling for travel and dates, it might be more than just making travel plans. It might have a lot more emotions tied up into it than you think. So when he says, I think we should go to my family's house for the holidays, she may be going through all the emotions of what that might look like, since maybe she doesn't get along too well with his mother. So when she says, well, how long are you thinking about staying? This might just be the beginning of heart talk. And if he continues with the task-oriented conversation, they may very well get crosswise because they're talking two different languages. This is where it can feel like she's not being listened to, not because he's not listening, but because he's trying to fix it and she is in a feeling mode. She's wanting him to connect with her feelings and he's trying to find solutions. They need to both understand what each really is trying to do. So it's okay to ask what kind of communication you're both wanting to have. Are you trying to fix it? Are you trying to connect about it? So leave us some comments or some questions in the chat and we'll try to answer those in the Q&A, or just leave us a comment if you need to do that. Okay, maybe you're wondering if you're in the right place, if this master class is for you. Well, you're in the right place if you feel like you need a mindset shift in how you communicate. You're in the right place if you need the attitudes and actions for change in your communication to feel close and connected to your partner. And you're in the right place if you want to gain actionable tools and skills to use connective communication. So I want to tell you from what experience I'm doing this masterclass. I'm doing this masterclass because of my own personal experience in my own marriage relationship. Susan and I have been together a long time, and we love working with couples and are passionate about marriage. We've taught and worked with couples in personal, church, and professional settings. Why am I doing this masterclass? I'm also doing it from my professional experience. I've worked with many couples, from pre-marriage and newlyweds to couples with way more years than even Susan and I have ourselves. I've seen couples with difficulties, hurt, and pain. I've seen the disconnection and the conflict, but I've also seen couples begin to have hope, to communicate well, and to love and connect in wonderful ways. I actually left the corporate world to become a marriage counselor because Susan and I have a great relationship, and we believe God wants us to enjoy each other and share a successful and meaningful life together. Now, I want to ask you a question. What if you could create a relationship that you feel great about and great about the direction it's heading? What is that for you? Can you imagine what it would feel like? What would it be like to talk to your partner without frustration, stress, or arguing? Can you see it? It feels pretty good, doesn't it? What I do want to help you with right now is a mindset shift in the way you communicate. What I want to give you is a systematic relationship view of how you communicate. And this mindset shift will make a big difference in feeling close and connected and in how you manage your conflict going forward. So here's where we're going with our 4 secrets. In the first secret, we want to help you with the real reasons couples don't feel good about each other, grow apart, and end up in miserable or failed relationships, and some of the keys to changing that. And in the second secret, we're going to help you understand that how you see your partner and think about them is everything. We want to help you with the right kind of attitudes, ones of connection and ones of love. And in the third secret, we want to help you know what understanding and influencing your partner really means, and to help you to overcome negativity and escalation in difficult conversations and help you clarify your communication. And then in the fourth secret, we want to help you identify patterns or cycles of conflict that almost all couples get into over time, to understand the natural reactions to emotional hurt or pain and how to change those cycles. And then we're going to show you how you can take an even further step with your communication. And we're going to give you your bonus skill, the movie theater attitude, for staying with us. And then we're going to do a live Q&A to end up our time together. Okay, so let's just jump right in. This secret helps you by understanding what the real reasons are that couples don't feel good about each other, grow apart, and end up in miserable or failed relationships, and the keys to changing that. The most common reason given for both men and women about their failed or miserable relationships, basically they all said the same thing. They said there was a gradual growing apart. They said there wasn't a sense of closeness anymore, and they didn't feel loved and appreciated in the relationship. And quite honestly, what those three things mean is emotional disengagement or emotional disconnection. The problem of emotional disengagement means that there's an absence of positive words, positive actions, and attitudes towards one another. Couples begin to become unresponsive to one another. They're not available emotionally to one another. They don't seem or act like they're close friends anymore. And they don't try to soothe each other very much anymore. So then what do we do about that? John Gottman says that we need attunement. Now, John is a scientist and he's done research on couples for over 40 years. And he says that couples need an awareness of their emotional experiences with one another and an ability to respond to one another's emotions. He says you don't take responsibility for their emotions, but you try to understand their emotions, not just cognitively, but emotionally also. And they also need to learn to soothe one another in order to reduce the feelings of threat while they're processing difficult experiences together. So he says couples need to learn to attune to one another. And so I think you can see there that's an acrostic. And the first one is awareness of the emotion. So awareness means that you know what's going on with your partner. You know that they're having some kind of strong emotions and that it's going to be an important part of your conversation. And then he says there needs to be a turning toward the emotions. Okay, so that's not a physical turning toward the person. That is a place where you are present and you're trying to understand their emotions. You don't run away, you don't avoid or withdraw. You try to turn toward those emotions. And you have a tolerance toward that emotional experience. Now, that's hard for a lot of couples. They may not be used to staying in when things are emotional. That seems too hard. Or maybe they haven't grown up in families where they can tolerate emotional experiences. But this is part of how we get close to our partners and communicate well with them. And then he says, understanding the emotion. Now, that doesn't mean that you just know that they're having emotions, but you understand what their emotions are. You're looking for what's going on deeper inside your partner and want to understand what emotions they're having. And then non-defensive listening to the emotion. It's easy to get defensive when things seem hard or when it seems like you may be the issue even. But we have to learn to be non-defensive about that and see our partner as this person who really wants to work things out with us. And then empathy toward the emotion. And we're actually going to talk a little more about empathy to give you a good understanding of what that really can mean. So, attune. So, where's your relationship in terms of closeness and connectedness? This would be a place where you could leave us a comment in the chat that we could talk to at the end when we get to the Q&A. So please go ahead and make your comments in the chat. And then we're going to go on to our second secret. This secret helps you by evaluating your own attitudes about your partner, understanding your thought processes and your overall perceptions of your partner. How you see them and think about them is everything. We will help you with the right kind of attitudes, ones of connection and of love. Now, there's one thing to be very careful about as we talk about the right attitudes is having a negative thinking due to ongoing or past painful experiences together. Negative attitudes can stick around for some time. You have to think about your overall patterns and labels that you may have had a history of that you attribute to your partner. So this is something to be thinking about as we go through these attitudes of connection and love. One of those attitudes is the one of caring for your spouse and honoring your spouse. Our caring attitude should be to understand, encourage, and assist our spouses when they have desires that need to be met in terms of both daily task-oriented things, but also more emotional types of things. We need to make a conscious decision to place our spouse in a position of high value, high worth, and importance. We speak their love language. We encourage them by using the right words, and we adjust our perception to see them as God sees them. Honor is recognition of importance or value, an attitude of consideration or high regard with admiration and respect. That's a pretty lofty definition of honor. And then the attitude of being present. Recognizing the importance of being in the moment and being present is a great attitude to have towards your marriage. Sometimes couples can be in the same room with each other for an hour and never interact, almost as if the other person doesn't exist. We must involve each other, carry on conversations, be emotionally present, and ask our partners if they want to be included in what we're doing. We've got to be present. And then the attitude of generosity. You get it, life can be stressful, and in the moment, it can be easy to miscommunicate and misunderstand your partner. But the attitude of generosity means that we extend the most generous interpretation possible to the interactions, the words, and actions of the ones that we love. And then one that we talk about a lot at mikeandsusandawson.com, and that's that the person is always more important than the task. Life is busy. And as a result, we easily get caught up in a bunch of stuff that can pull us away from our loved ones and sometimes hurt them in the process. A good attitude to have is to be mindful that no matter how busy we are, and regardless of how much we're trying to accomplish, those things are never more important than our spouse. We express this by pulling ourselves away from work, stopping what we're doing to listen to what our spouse needs at that moment. Another attitude is the attitude of seeing with the heart. In loving relationships, we must see our partner's heart, just the way that God does us. We need to see deeper in terms of the meaning, importance, and the emotions of what's really going on inside our partner. The heart is where we start, especially when we're having difficulties in our relationships. And then the attitude of having a completely emotionally safe marriage. We should be able to tell our spouses anything. We should feel safe to discuss what hurts us and what our fears are, and completely trust that they'll handle that information sensitively and very carefully. That's safe. And an attitude that there is a no losers policy. There's no such thing as win-lose in marriage relationships because you're a team. It's either win-win or lose-lose. You express this attitude by constantly looking for ways to find solutions that both of you can feel good about. And then the trustworthy attitude. Trustworthy means demonstrating through your words and your actions that you recognize and respect the infinite worth and the vulnerability of the person you're interacting with. And to the extent that you treat that person as precious and irreplaceable, you're being trustworthy. And to the extent that you don't treat them that way, you're not being trustworthy. Trust is not earned once and for all in a marriage. It must be continually established and maintained. What we're saying is that our attitudes mean everything, especially in our marriage. If we're thinking correctly about our partner and seeing them from the right perspective every day, our heart will be more open toward them. It's all about having the right attitude. So, how's your attitude in your relationship? Send us a little feedback in the chat. Of the 8 attitudes, what percent do you regularly have toward your partner? Are you 100%, 50%, less? Give us a comment there, and we will move on to our next secret. The third secret helps you by knowing what understanding and influencing your partner really means and being able to put it into an everyday real world practice. It will help you overcome negativity and escalation in difficult conversations and help you clarify your communication. Difficult topics and differences are best dealt with and managed through cooperation, understanding, and persuasion or influence. When there's a conversation that's potentially volatile, what you really want to do is to understand your partner's point of view. So how do you do that without it getting heated, keeping calm, and not lose that attitude of love and kindness towards your partner when it's one of those kind of topics? Well, it's in your best interest to slow things down, to stabilize that interaction, reduce harsh words and tone. Remember, there should be no threats. We want to think safety. And then we want to increase positive words and actions and our tones. You might want to think in terms of an attitude of cooperation. So we need to understand our partner's point of view, but there also needs to be a goal to your conversations. And that goal is understanding. We need to agree that in every interaction, there are 2 valid realities, not just one. One partner sees an issue one way, the other sees it completely different. You both have a valid reality, but the truth is that each of your realities, though valid to you, is also subjective. So each person must focus not just on facts, but on perception too. The goal of each person is to try to understand your partner's perception with an attitude to find some degree of what you can agree on, what you can make sense of, something like that. You look for where you can come together and find commonality. In other words, you let your partner influence not just how you think cognitively, but how you feel also emotionally. So that's the goal, to understand each other. This is a very important meaning here. You understand your partner the best when there is understanding, emotion, meaning, and why something is important for your partner. In addition to a goal for understanding your partner's point of view, there also needs to be a structure to the dialogue. And that structure is that both of you must take turns giving their point of view while the other is listening and working on understanding. It sounds almost childlike, but it's really about taking turns and sharing. Many couples don't listen to understand, but are instead thinking what they're going to say in response, or they're thinking about how they'll defend themselves to get what they want or need. It's a very human and natural thing to do, but it's not productive. So if it's your turn to speak, talk about your feelings, not about what your partner feels or thinks, and not about the whatever happened in the last event. And don't blame. Say what you actually do want and need, not what you don't want and what you don't like. Help your partner really understand you affectively and emotionally. Help them know what is important and why these things are meaningful to you. And then if it's your time to listen, postpone your own agenda, your perspective, and your experiences of what you think the solution is. Hear their position, feelings, and the needs of your partner. Validate their position or their perspective. Let them know what makes sense to you, what you can agree on with them. Be interested and ask really good questions. I see couples all the time that don't take turns, don't listen, are thinking about what they're going to say, and interrupt and talk over one another. Does that sound familiar? So, here are the key areas to focus on when having difficult conversations and understanding your partner's point of view. It's important to know and define what we're really talking about here. Understanding means that you perceive the intended meaning of the person or their words, or that you interpret or view what they say in a particular way. It's not your perception, it's theirs. Meaning has to do with listening and interpreting what they intend to communicate, even though it may not be directly expressed. We need to listen for what is meant by their words. And then compassion. This is really important. Compassion means to suffer and bear with someone. It's a conscious decision to be aware of another person's distress and to want to try to help them with that distress. And then generosity. We said this a little earlier. Generosity is when you extend the most generous interpretation possible to the intentions, the words, and actions of your partner. You make the most generous assumptions about them. And then empathy. Brene Brown, in her cartoon video on empathy, says, empathy fuels connection. It's feeling with people. Let me give you a real life example. I've had many couples who struggled with pregnancy. Either they had difficulty getting pregnant or even with losing a baby. It's an all too common, heartbreaking experience. But a great example of empathy is when a husband said to his wife after multiple miscarriages, I know what it's like and you're not alone. I'm here with you. Now, do you think he really knew what it was really like for his wife? Well, not exactly, of course, but he was there with her, he cared for her, and they went through that together. Brene says there's 4 characteristics in empathy. You take another person's perspective, you stay out of judgment, you recognize the emotion in the other person, and you communicate that recognition. I would just add to that that sometimes saying, nothing and just being there with them is all that we need to do to have great empathy. Okay, do you have a good goal and structure for your tougher conversations? Do you really try to understand, be generous, and show good empathy when you're talking with your partner, especially when it's a more difficult conversation? How about leave us a comment and then we're going to move on to our fourth secret to great couples communication. This secret helps you by identifying patterns of conflict or cycles that almost all couples get into over time. To understand our natural reactions to emotional hurt or pain and how to change those cycles. Now, fear is one of the primary motivators for all behavior. Everyone has typical and often highly developed behaviors they use to deal with fear. When a relationship is unsafe, our natural reaction is to protect ourselves by shutting down our heart and our spirit. Fear can be many of the feelings or emotions connected to our relationships, like worried, anxious, stressed, uncomfortable, angry, or frustrated. Fear can be whatever that word or feeling is for you. So, what we're saying is that when we fear, we become closed, defensive, and reactive, and disconnected and conflicted. Repeated disappointments, arguments, and frustrations lead to conflict, negativity, and changes of our perspective regarding our relationships. We can also go into fight or flight, a very natural and quick ability to respond to danger. Fight or flight is great for survival, but it's terrible for intimacy. So, fear can become a cycle that we get into as couples. When we have strong feelings like sad, angry, disconnected, worried, frustrated, our feelings are hurt, so to speak. So, I hurt. And when I hurt, I want something, a solution to the hurt and the pain. And we usually want that from our partner. We kind of say in our head, if only they would do this or not do this, then I could be happy. But sometimes misplaced expectations can get in the way. When our expectations for help are put in the wrong place, the result often is fear. We want acceptance, but maybe we fear we're not good enough. We want respect, but we fear we're going to be looked down on instead. Or we want to control our situation, but fear that we're really powerless to do that. And so we react. Consciously or non consciously, we fall into well worn patterns when our fear buttons get pushed. Our emotions and thinking result in behaviors that damage our relationships, which makes our partner hurt, want solutions to their pain, they fear, they react, and so goes the cycle. And so this fear cycle eventually makes us dependent on other people for our happiness and our fulfillment. The fear cycle is a predictable pattern many couples have. It's inherent and it's even non conscious. Okay, so how about a real live example? So, a woman is lonely and feels neglected by her husband, who's in the midst of hunting season. So, she wants some special time and attention from him. And she expects and wants him to not go hunting this weekend, but maybe she doesn't actually say that. And instead, she reacts by getting angry at him instead. The husband can't understand where her anger came out of the blue from. He doesn't get the signal. And so he wants peace, but thinks he won't get it and can't make her happy. So he reacts by leaving her to, you guessed it, go hunting. Full circle. And then what do you think happens next? Well, she hurts again. She wants again. She fears again. She reacts again. Then he does the same thing, right? The circle or cycle continues. All right, so what do we do about that? We break the cycle. We have to have self-control. We need to create space, both physical and or emotional space, to think, to calm down, to choose our words and attitudes very carefully. We also have to own our own stuff. That means we own our own thinking, we own our own emotions, and we own our own behaviors. And we don't react, but we respond. There's many ways to help change damaging cycles. Some by what we've already talked about so far tonight, like cultivating attitudes of love, creating emotional safety in the relationship, taking personal responsibility for your own thoughts and feelings, understanding and influencing your partner the right way, and by using heart talk to really care for your spouse, by connecting with your partner emotionally and being tuned in, having good boundaries for yourself and your relationship, your marriage, or the commitment to your relationship, and taking good care of yourself emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically. Other ways are being responsive and available to your partner. We also change damaging cycles by appreciation and gratitude, cultivating that in the relationship, and having good boundaries, even. So you can see some cycles you might get into, times when you need something from your partner, so you react and then they react too. Maybe you can identify a cycle in your relationship. And again, if you'd like to, leave us a chat and we'll answer questions at the end in our Q&A. So I hope you feel like you got some good communication concepts, some tools, and some connection help. And I know it can feel like drinking from a fire hose, but here's kind of where we've been so far. We talked about the two types of communication that every couple needs: work talk and heart talk. And then we talked about where couples go wrong with their relationships, how they start to go wrong. And then we talked about attitudes of connection and love, and then how we need to understand our partner's point of view, understanding and influence in the relationship, and then how conflict happens and what some cycles look like. So I have a question for you, and I'd love it if you would type your answer into the comments or the chat. How would you like to take the communication points we've talked about here in the last number of minutes and go farther? What if you could go farther? Take what we've talked about so far and get more. To not only learn a few great secrets, but to learn a process to recreate the loving and connected relationship that maybe you had in the beginning, and to continue to cultivate your relationship for years to come, to end the cycle of frustration and stress and become a happy, connected couple. Well, of course, you have choices. You could just stay where you are with some great ideas. Maybe that's not all you need, though. But what if you had a proven method to communicate without frustration, anger, or stress? What if you could go from feeling stressed and frustrated and misunderstood to confident in your ability to communicate and connect as a couple? Well, I'd love for you to go farther and join us for our first digital course, Communicate Without Arguing. This is a process of concepts, tools, and skills that have helped many couples to end the cycles that damage their relationship and communicate and connect for many years to come. Communicate Without Arguing not only teaches you the steps and tools you need to recreate the loving and connected relationship that you had in the beginning, but how to continue to cultivate your relationship for years to come. By using these timeless skills, you will continue to develop into a happy, connected couple. This is where you'll learn everything you need so you'll go from feeling stressed, frustrated, and misunderstood to confident in your ability to communicate and connect. You'll accomplish making a safe and connected relationship so you can connect with openness and vulnerability. You'll get clarity on stabilizing your interactions so you can feel open to talk about the important and meaningful things you need in your relationship. How, you ask? I will give you a proven process to really understand the ins and outs of conflict and show you how to stop hurtful and painful arguments. You'll also get the tools and concepts to actually change how you see and manage differences and rights and wrongs. It sounds like a lot, right? But I'll show you how to build and maintain trust and build the emotional intimacy every couple needs and wants. So this digital course has 5 modules, each with between 3 and 4 video lessons each. And each lesson has worksheets and exercises for you to enhance your skills and learning so you have tools to communicate and connect great. Each week for 5 weeks, you get a module. And the first is stabilize your relationship, because we know that the right beginning develops the right ending. And the second module is to make your relationship safe, to connect with openness and vulnerability. The third module is understanding conflict, communicating with a goal. The fourth module is communicate carefully, building trust and influence. And the fifth module is communicate with love, because how you talk is key. And so far, that's a value of well over $657, but I have a lot more than just that for you. You get the 5 modules showing you everything you need to know and understand to turn your relationship into a satisfying, hope-filled, and connected one. This is a step-by-step communication makeover, including how to stop fighting and create an appreciation and gratitude-filled relationship. We teach you the brain and body formula to make sure you understand the way that those work together during conflict and stress, and how to use this adrenaline and hormone overload to both you and your significant other's advantage. And repairing after conflict, helping each other to stop conflict before damage is done to your relationship, and how to truly change and repair where damage exists. And you also get the safe relationship roadmap, which will help you identify and put in place the things that make your marriage comfortable and rock solid, plus this bonus. For 5 weeks, there will be 2 sessions per week of a live Q&A with me inside an active private Facebook group for members only. That alone is a $247 value. There's 5 weeks of live Q&A sessions to make sure you get your burning questions answered and you can move forward with clarity and confidence. You'll get an active Facebook community with your fellow students and ambassadors to make sure you don't stay stuck on a particular exercise or tool. This private Facebook group is a space to overcome isolation and to fill your motivation tank by connecting with other couples who understand where you are and are there to help you cross the finish line. Now, I want you to know that the information that I've put together is not something only I can understand as a marriage counselor. I'm no different from you. And yes, Susan and I do use these tools and skills that are in this course, and we're even still learning too. Even though we've been together a long, long time, our marriage is really great, and we want you to have a great relationship too. And the reason we know you can is because I have taught these very same concepts and skills to hundreds of couples. They're usable, practical, and they work. It's not just theory. I've experienced it myself, and with many couples, both Susan and I have worked with, have experienced it too. You can do it. But you know what? I have even more I want to give you to add to the course value. In addition to the 5 modules and the Facebook Live groups, you're also going to get another bonus on safety. This is a steps to safety guide and exercise, and it will give you the structure and process to define and implement an emotionally safe relationship. What you'll get is a personal step-by-step video teaching and detailed exercise to help you understand how anyone can recognize and take steps to create an emotionally safe relationship, and to evaluate the amount of safety you are or are not experiencing in your marriage partnership. Now, I'm convinced you can not only learn these concepts and get more than the value I'm showing you, but that so you can make a practical step towards your marriage and towards this course. I want to make it easy for you. And you'll be backed by a risk-free 14-day guarantee. That means you'll have the opportunity to watch the videos in modules 1 and 2, download and do the worksheets, and participate in the Communicate Without Arguing private Facebook group to make sure this is for you. But we still have more value to give you. In addition to the 5 modules, the Facebook group, and the safety guide and exercise, we're adding in a special bonus the falling in and out of love model. This teaching will give you hope. No matter how you feel right now about your most important relationship, there is hope. You'll get a personal step-by-step video diagramming the physical and emotional evaluation of why people just like you fall in and out of love, along with explanations of the actions we do and don't do that affect how we feel about our spouse. It's a pathway that shows how to rebuild the actions and emotions of love within ourselves and our partner, and to reignite the desires we had when we were first attracted to each other, and how to overcome the doubts in rebuilding love and to press forward to recharge your emotional connection and closeness. So here it is. You get all of these things altogether, a value of $1,218. But you might be saying, wait, Mike, that's a lot. Well, based on what I do every day for couples one-on-one, it is a lot of value. But here's the beauty of online courses. You don't pay $1,218 because it's not one-on-one. You only pay $397 for the entire course and all of the bonuses. And you can make 2 payments instead of 1 if that works better for you. You can go to this link, and we also are going to put that in the chat for you. And you can sign up for either way that you want to, single payment or 2. But I also have one more special value for you. I have 10 only special VIP experiences available. You receive the full course, all the bonuses, plus an online couple assessment that's been proven with high reliability and validity, and that's not available to the public. I will personally evaluate your assessment, plus give you a 30-minute private virtual conference with me to explain your personalized results. So all 5 modules, all bonuses, and the VIP experience for only $597 or 2 payments of $311. So when you go to the link that's in your chat or that you'll see on your slides again, you'll see a place where you can choose how to pay for either the full course or for the VIP experience. And then when you decide which plan you want, it will look like this. And then your members area after you sign up will look something like this. It has all the modules, video lessons, and worksheets for you to see as they become available. Remember, that's one every week for 5 weeks, starting on March 1. You'll always have access to your modules, so you can come in and out of your course curriculum as you need to, and always use it for reference in the future. So go to the link and choose the entire course for $397, or sign up for the VIP experience using the link that you can see here or in the chat. So let's think through again why you showed up for this masterclass. We talked earlier about you being in the right place. Of course, I don't know your personal specific reasons why you showed up today, but from working with couples for years, I can guess that you're in the right place if you feel you need a mindset shift in how you communicate. And communicate without arguing will add to that mind shift by helping you with the attitudes and skills to value your partner differently and to see and treat them with God's viewpoint, to treasure them just as you're treasured by God Himself, to really see and understand their heart. And maybe you're here today because you want to gain actionable tools and skills to use in connective communication. In Communicate Without Arguing, you'll add skills and tools to build and maintain trust. You'll add to your skills to help you be more emotionally responsive and really speak to and understand your partner. Or maybe you're here because you need the attitudes and actions for change in your communication to feel close and to feel connected. Communicate Without Arguing will help you understand the emotions and physiological issues that keep you from communicating and loving your partner without the frustrations, stresses, and even anger that can so often get in the way of your connection with one another. Conflict will no longer lead to fights, hurt, and pain. Okay, maybe you're saying, but I don't know if I can do this. And yes, there's a lot of things to learn and implement inside Communicate Without Arguing. And yes, these are lifelong skills that you'll have to practice and reference back to time. But here's the thing. As long as you're willing to invest a few hours each week at your own pace and reach out for help when you get stuck, you can absolutely do this. You probably know that there's nothing of value that isn't created without a significant amount of effort, and this is really no exception. But if you're here today, we're sure you actually can put that effort in and feel like you've learned the life-changing outcomes that a successful relationship can produce. Or maybe you're asking, can I do this solo? Well, Communicate Without Arguing is designed for one or both people in a relationship to benefit from the teaching. Each module and exercise is laid out for one or two participants. Those students who have used these tools and techniques have found them to be valuable in both scenarios. Or maybe you say, we've been in this mess for years. Can we do it? We believe that couples start out doing the best they know how. They treat each other the way they've seen other couples act, and that can be good or not. Not everyone has the opportunity to live within families or observe couples who know how to love each other well. That being said, anyone who is willing to listen to the videos, do the exercises, and honestly put in the effort can improve their relationship. What it will do is give you proven skills, tools, and inspiration to stop hurting each other, implement a safe environment, determine why fights happen, and how to minimize the harshness and damage that can be long lasting, and to communicate skills and techniques that build trust. It's going to help you talk to your partner with love. You can do this. Take this first step now and sign up for the whole course and bonuses for $397 or the VIP experience for only $597. And if you have any questions, you can go to the chat or you can always go to mikeandsusan.com and send us a note there too. The link is right there and it's in your chat. All right, you stayed with us to the end. Thank you so much. And now I want to give you one of the most important and powerful attitudes or concepts that I use with almost every single client. We said that we all have our own valid reality, but they're subjective, right? Relationships can be very much like a movie. Each of us have our own reality about the events and happenings in our lives. So here's an important concept couples need to understand to have great relationships. You need the movie theater attitude. It's like you both are living in your own theater and each of you is watching your own movie. Okay, ladies, you're sitting in your movie theater. It has your preferences, your experiences. It's made up of the meaning you've made in your life, of your situations and your circumstances. It's based on your family of origin, your past relationships, and of course, that you're a woman. It's your movie. It's not your husband's movie. And men, you're sitting in your movie theater. It's not, it's yours. It's not your wives. And it has your characters in it, your soundtrack. It's made up of your perspective, your view of how the world works, the meaning you've given to how you grew up, the events and experiences and relationships you've had in your life. It's from your male perspective. It's your movie. It's not your wife's movie. Great couples learn how to get up out of their own movie theater and go and sit in their partner's movie theater, but not as a movie critic, but as an interested, curious observer. It's like you ask, I wonder why she feels that way, and she does that. And it's like she says, I wonder why he does that. We need to get interested and curious about what is really going on inside our partner, because there is always a reason that we do what we do. We get less critical, less defensive, and we lose the judgment. Great couples cultivate this attitude in their lives together. Okay, I hope that helps. And so we want to end today with answering a few questions with the time that we have remaining. So if you have some questions, just go to the chat and we'll work through some of those with you. And I did get a couple of questions before we ever started the webinar today. And one of those was that I've heard your blog about mindset shift and wonder if you could elaborate more on that. And so really today we did elaborate on that mindset shift. It really has to do with our attitudes and how we're going to change things that we are doing in our relationships. And so attitudes, how we see our partner, okay? And then I think it's also about the heart posture that we have towards our partners. So a lot of times those are really important things. And then I also got a question about, okay, well, how do you change your attitude? I'm going to try to see if y'all can see me here for a minute. Can y'all see me now? Wave if you can see me. Okay, good, good. One of the questions was how do you change your attitude, right? And so sometimes this can be kind of difficult for people. And the first thing I would say is, you know what? Praying about your own attitude is probably one of the most powerful things that you can do. And then I would say, work on your attitudes together as a couple. It's very important that we work together on changing our attitudes, changing our habits, changing our interactions with one another. So the most power is in doing that with your partner. And then I would say another way to help you change your attitude is to get rid of what I call negative sentiment override. Negative sentiment override means that you have a more negative view or perspective of your partner than you do positive. And when we get into those negative sentiments, what can happen is that we can't see positives that are happening even when they really are happening, because we're already in that negative attitude towards one another, okay? And then I'd say Another way to work on changing your attitude is to practice the expressions of love. Practice the expressions of love. So that's words, that's actions, and that's also attitudes. And another thing is to add in lots of positive things consistently into the relationship. So that's small positive things that you can do consistently, because small positive things you can do often, and you can do them so that a response is usually going to happen back. And that's what happens with small, positive, consistent expressions of love. And of course, add in a lot of positive words and actions overall in the relationship. And I'd say that that is kind of how we change our attitudes together. So, all right. So I really appreciate you guys being here tonight. And I don't see that we have any more questions from you. And so I'm going to let you go, but it's really our pleasure. And we really appreciate you being on tonight. And I hope that what we talked about today about the secrets to communication that you can use and you can implement. And of course, we're at mikeandsusandawson.com and love to have your comments or questions. And so you feel free to do that, and we'll just get back to you just as quick as we can. Okay. Thank y'all so much, and good night.